Color has to be distinct. It has to be distinct for it, I think, to become really alive. And for me, also, it has to be, I want a certain physicality out of color. Because if we see color in our mind, and then the color in our mind can activate understandings, histories of understanding, and then maybe new understandings, I want that experience to be as impactful as touch or impactful as sound. So when I'm dealing with color, I really want to be able to create something that is felt in the mind as one would feel the smell of food when they're hungry. There's a certain kind of kitsch factor in my work, in a way that I'm engaging sort of like Africanist motif, African and Africanist motif. My father was a historian of history of African art and archaeology at the Ohio State University, but I grew up around African art, traditional African art artifacts. So I respond to these things very immediately. I understand that, even though if I may not be able to name the places of these objects, I know I feel them. And so I'm playing with this kind of history knowledge of those forms, but also playing that into modern and contemporary art. And on one hand, how modern art defines itself through the history of African objects, in particular African objects, sculpture. So there's this kind of mix and play with that, and painting and how it's in its relationship to Cubism, which is related to African art. The drawing is a sort of certainly like the construct of the world. For me, I think of the challenges. I got the drawing, which fixes everything. It maps everything. And the challenge is, how do I break that frame? And understanding that color is the thing. Color needs to be with drawing, because color is awesomeness and space and everything. And it needs some kind of guide to put itself forward and put itself to use. But the thing is that they work together to kind of become something else together, rather than just one thing breaking the other. They become something else with each other together. And so I look at color as a means of kind of stepping over the predictability of what can happen when you look at a drawing, or the kind of a construct-like nature of what drawing is, or what drawing can be understood as when just seen as line on paper. So there's something about the way that I'm looking at the world where it's sort of like we're bound in bodies, we're bound in labels, we're bound by categories and by in naming, and then how can I actually break free and through those conventions that are sometimes unwillingly placed on ourselves, for example. How can I become free?